The Oscars, of course, happened tonight, and I'm sure by this point you have heard of it. Uh, if you haven't, I truly don't know how. Chris Rock hosted the event, and Will Smith slapped him in the face for a joke he made about his wife, Jada, who has, for those of you who are unaware, she has alopecia, which causes hair loss. And so she showed up at the award show, not in a wig, not in anything, but just with her natural shaved head, which, by the way, before we even go any further, she looks absolutely incredible. So, I mean, the fact that anybody would even think to make fun of her for not having hair when she looks better than most people who have hair. She truly rocks it. I mean, just a gorgeous person. So that already to me, anybody making fun of Jada for having no hair when she looks as good as she does without it, already you're on the losing team here. But Chris Rock did a joke that essentially boils down to her starring in G.I. Jane 2, a sequel to the film G.I. Jane, which I had not seen. But if you look it up, the main star in it, the main character, doesn't have hair. And I mean, that's the bulk of the joke is, haha, you don't have hair because of a medical condition that you can't control. It's in my opinion, it's a bad joke. It's just anytime you make fun of somebody for a medical condition that they have no say over, you're stepping into territory that really is punching down more than it is, lifting people up and making people laugh. This audio was censored for American audiences. They just muted the feed, from what I understand. In some other territories, it was not. So, in case you didn't have the opportunity to hear that, I'm going to play that for you right now.
どうなんでしょうか。
Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
ウィル・スミスにやられました。
Thi- Wow, dude. It was a G.I. Jane joke.
G.I. ジェーンのジョークだったんです。
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television.
テレビ史上最高の場面でしょうか。
I asked for your thoughts on this, and a lot of different opinions. Of course, there are always people who are going to say, "I believe it was staged." No matter what issue you have, no matter what thing happens on TV, there's always somebody who says, "I believe the whole thing was scripted. I believe the whole thing was staged." Maybe if it was muted, you could have a harder time believing the legitimacy of it. But I'm telling you, if after you just heard that and you go to the channel and watch the actual, it is so visibly uncomfortable. And you can tell Chris Rock does not know what to do. And I just think calling it even remotely scripted is such a stretch. This is a real moment and deeply uncomfortable. Now, I don't really care about award shows, but when something like this happens, I do, because there's just a part of me that loves when the rich and famous reveal themselves to be humans just like the rest of us. They're just people. Yeah, they have a lot more money and a lot more awareness than you and I, but nevertheless, they are people. They have egos, they have feelings, they get hurt, and I love a good moment when even the rich and powerful and famous have very human moments like this. Somebody slapping somebody else in the face because somebody offended somebody's wife. I'm here for it. I love it. I think secretly we all do, and that's why we talk about it. But it's a very human experience. We can all relate to it. And I asked you guys what you thought about it. Simon said Chris Rock around and found out. Indeed he did. Most people, from what I have read in your responses, believed that Chris Rock, in fact, deserved this on some level. Now, some of you said violence was a little overboard, especially in front of such a large international audience of millions of people. They should have talked about it afterwards. They should have, resolved it in a different way. but we don't really disagree with Will Smith being upset. I don't know, man. I think, well, let's read what Stacy says. I think she put it best. Justified. I don't condone violence, but I understand. Because here's the thing, we may have all made entanglement or cheating jokes, or jokes about them oversharing or the oddness of their marriage and them staying together. That was a choice they made as a couple, and I suppose there's some fodder in that. But she did not choose to have a medical condition. She was clearly bothered by what Chris said, and her husband reacted as any protective husband should react. I get it. Comedians are going to do what they do, and Chris is known for pushing limits, but some just unspokenly off limits. Right or wrong is subjective here. What I do know is that were it my husband, yeah, Chris would still be picking up his teeth, just saying. So, I think there's, I don't know that I disagree with any of that. Should he have, I mean, he didn't punch him, let's be real. I mean, what he did in a legal sense is technically assault, but I mean, I don't think we expect Chris Rock to press charges against Will Smith anytime soon. But Will Smith, of course, then to go on to technically apologize in his acceptance speech. Kudos to them for letting him get his award still. I mean, that's pretty, you're a good actor, or at least, people think you're a good actor when you can slap somebody in the face in front of a live audience and then still go on to win an award at the same ceremony. Alicia says, if she had cancer and lost her hair, would it be okay? She has a medical condition and has been public about it. That joke was in very bad taste, and so was Will. However, I respect him standing up for his wife. Emily said, I don't know if someone made fun of my wife having alopecia on one of the most watched events on TV. I'd probably have smacked the shit out of him too. This wasn't a Comedy Central roast. No one was there to be made fun of like that. And that actually is such a good point. I'm glad Emily mentioned that. This isn't the same format as a Comedy Central roast, but more to the point, Chris Rock really is a comedian from a much different era. If you think about where our culture and the natural conversation has gone since Chris Rock was at his peak in the 90s, um, times have changed. And these kinds of jokes that are very easy to do, they really lack any sort of creativity. They lack any real consideration for the person on the other side to go, ha ha, you're bald. Doing bald jokes, especially for a actual medical reason, is it's kind of a relic from a different era, and really one of the only formats you still see stuff like that in is a Comedy Central roast. And what's the thing about the roasts? They're explicitly a platform where people give consent to pretty much everything off limits, or they'll specify what is off limits, and just do your worst. But an award show where people are just sitting there, tuned in to watch people get accolades for their efforts as artists. I agree with the consensus. I think the joke is objectively bad, even just as a funny thing. Like, haha, you're bald. I look forward to seeing you in the sequel to that movie that had a bald person in it. This is not necessarily the height of comedy, just purely from a funny standpoint. But then you're talking about a medical condition that someone can't control. Uh, it's in poor taste. I agree with the community. I mean, you guys shared so many things, so we don't have time to get through them all. But I thank you all for participating in that discussion, and I hope you will follow the page, because I just might read a response of yours from something else in the future.